to the cloud. Okay, wonderful. And Claudia, welcome. So a few people here, the screen's off. So that's one of Christina's friends from Toronto, recently moved to BC. So wonderful. Thanks for coming, everybody. And let me just switch over my reading glasses here so I can actually read something. I'm finding my progressives, I'm still going like this anyway, so I have to put on my reading glasses here. Okay, wonderful. So yeah, welcome. Thanks for coming, everybody. And thanks for remembering. I think a lot of times now, because I'm recording stuff, I think some people think, well, maybe there isn't a class on Saturdays because we're just getting a recording anyway. But I'll have to sort of remind people when, I guess, we've got a live class and when we don't. So thank you for remembering. And for all those just listening to a recording or a video or whatever, welcome. Thanks for coming. And same thing, just to, I guess, sort of reintroduce what we're doing here. We're doing, it's kind of funny because courses always change depending on just how it goes. And initially, I just wanted to do Lama Chopa pujas with people. And now it's becoming more of a class where we're teaching stuff. It's funny that always happens, like the best laid plans, you know, you start deploying it and it just kind of becomes something different. So I've just tried to focus, you know, we do a little bit of Lama Chopa, sort of very sort of stripped down meditations that way and other meditations. But in a lot of ways, I'm putting sort of more of the energy, the zest into the teaching part of it now, which is funny. And that wasn't planned. It's kind of funny how that's changed. Anyway, so we're still going to keep on. We will be done this module soon. Maybe another 2 or 3 classes on emptiness. We'll keep coming back to it, of course, with the different modules I want to go over. But this was sort of an introductory one where it's the 3 principal paths or 3 big concepts, I guess you could say, in Buddhism. And as always, if you get these 3, you know, you can sort of understand any kind of Buddhism that any temple you go to, any book you end up reading. These are the 3 main things of renunciation, bodhicitta, wish to enlightenment, and wisdom realizing emptiness. And like I say, if you do plan on trying to get enlightened in one lifetime, hopefully you do, with the 5 conditions you need to get enlightened in one lifetime or within a couple of lifetimes or really short period of time are these 3 principal paths of renunciation, bodhicitta, wisdom realizing emptiness. In particular, and we'll see, what we like to sounds very sort of arrogant to say the correct view of emptiness, like the other ones aren't correct, but the sort of one view of emptiness that works with highest yoga tantra, sort of the peak teachings of highest yoga tantra. And it's the same thing even if you're going to do Dzogchen practice in the Nyingma tradition, you need to know this view of emptiness. And that's what's called the Madhyamika or middle way path. But in particular, the middle way consequentialist path, or Madhyamika Prasangika. So there's 2 forms of Madhyamika that we'll see what they call the Sautrantika, or lower version of it, so to speak, and then the quote-unquote higher version of it. So we're going to be studying even a little bit today the Prasangika, or what they call the middle way consequentialist school. So you need these 3 things to get enlightened, and then of course you need highest yoga tantra. So the there's a bit of a debate about what they call yoga tantra, but that's very, very close to Anuttara yoga or highest yoga tantra, to be honest. So maybe you can get enlightened in one lifetime or something like that with that one as well. I don't know, but generally the 4 classes of tantra, Kriya, Charya yoga, and Anuttara yoga, they're sort of stepped up in terms of their power and how long it takes to get enlightened. And of course, the top one, highest yoga tantra, Anuttara yoga, they say you can get enlightened in one lifetime. And if you're really good, just even in a 3-year retreat. That's of course very, very rare. But the point is that they say it's instant enlightenment, because if you're looking at all the countless lives you have to put into your spiritual path, and it takes, like, you know, 1 great aeon or whatever, getting enlightened in one lifetime or even 2, or just like a short amount of time like that, is just like snapping the fingers. In the big picture, it's a very, very quick time. So putting all these assembled things together, you're getting your little toolbox or toolkit to get enlightened in one lifetime really, really fast. So without further ado, let's sort of get on the class here, and we can talk more about emptiness. So I will start, excuse me, with the Heart Sutra again. And then we'll start with this one. Homage to Perfection Wisdom, the Blessed Mother. Thus I've heard at one time the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajgir and Mass Vulture's Mountain, together with a great assembly of monks and nuns and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. That time the Blessed One was absorbed in the concentration of countless aspects of phenomena called profound illumination. That time also Spirit of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the Great Being, was looking perfectly at the practice of profound perfection wisdom, looking perfectly at the five aggregates being empty of inherent existence. Then through the power of Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Spirit of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the Great Being, how should a son of the lineage train who wishes to engage in the practice of the profound perfection wisdom? Thus he spoke, and Spirit of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the Great Being, replied to Venerable Shariputra as follows. Shariputra, whatever son or daughter of the lineage wishes to engage in the practice of the profound perfection wisdom should look perfectly like this. Subsequently, looking perfectly and correctly at the five aggregates being empty of inherent existence, form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form, and form is not other than emptiness. Likewise, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are emptiness, having no characteristics. They are not produced and do not cease. They have no defilement, no separation from defilement. They have no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, and no consciousness. There is no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mentality, no form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no tactile object, no phenomenon. There is no I element and so forth up to no mentality element, and also up to no element of no consciousness. There is no ignorance, no exhaustion of ignorance, and so forth up to no aging and death, no exhaustion of aging and death. Likewise, there is no suffering, origin, cessation, or path, no exalted awareness, no attainment, also no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there's no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide in the perfection of wisdom. Their minds have no obstructions and no fear. Passing under beyond perversity, they attain the final nirvana. Also, all the Buddhas reside perfectly in the three times, having relied upon the perfection of wisdom, became manifest, complete Buddhas in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of perfection of wisdom, mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, equal the unequal mantra, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, since it's not false, should be known as the truth. The mantra of perfection of wisdom is proclaimed, Tayata Om Gata Gata Paragata Parasamgati Bodhisoha. Shariputra, Bodhisattva, Great Being, should train the profound perfection of wisdom like this. Then the Blessed One arose from that concentration and said to Spirit of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the Great Being, that he'd spoken well. Good of Sunlands is like that. Since it's like that, just as you have revealed, in that way the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced, and the Tathagatas will also rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Shariputra, Spirit of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the Great Being, the entire circle of disciples, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, demigods, and spirits, were delighted and highly praised what had been spoken by the Blessed One. Okay, so just that brief meditation emptiness right there to start our class. And just take a moment now again with that to set our intention that everything we do today, we're going to do just to freely dedicate towards the enlightenment of all sentient beings. And everything we learn today or share today may be put towards our own path of awakening, that we become enlightened for the benefit of all. Okay, just doing our fold breathing here. So 9-point breathing. So what we're going to do, of course, the three, inhaling through the left nostril, exhaling through the right. Again, getting rid of our desires, attachment, and hang-ups and so forth, those three breaths, switching it around, inhaling through our right nostril, exhaling through our left, getting rid of anger, resentment, reactivity, and 3 deep breaths with both nostrils for the last 3. And of course, on the final inhalation, just hold the breath for a few moments, just at your navel, just a little bit below your belly button, inside your body. And just feel that, put your mind there. So your mind, your breath and prana are all there together, mixing just actually in the center of the navel chakra. And we'll start that right now. So 3 sets of the whole thing all together, just on your own time. Hey, just while you guys are finishing up here, I'm going to actually lead a meditation on Mandala Offering today. So if you have a copy of that, great. Otherwise, just listen and do the visualizations. Okay. So let's just take a moment to just see ourselves in a wide open space here. And just again, I would say like the ground, like they say in the teachings, is just like lapis lazuli and very soft and easy to sit on, comfortable. And just a wide open space as far as the eye can see, so we can include all sentient beings in it. So again, for around us here, so are the people closest to us karmically, so our family, our friends, people at work, our neighborhood, all the beings that are kind of around in our own little mandala. These are the ones we're closest to, and when you become enlightened, these will be your first students, which is funny, the ones that you'll have the sort of greatest impact on their spiritual journey as well. So representing the feminine side of our body, our mother is on our left, and masculine side of our body, father's on our right. People we love the most seated behind us as support, and people we like the least or have issues with in front of us as objects of care, compassion, healing, so forth. And we can move out in concentric circles outwards. So people from all over the world, human beings from all different places, backgrounds and countries and so forth. Particularly, we can think of places that are in great need or great suffering. We can think of the Ukraine right now, the big war going on there. And then all the wars no one really pays attention to that aren't on the news anymore, never really were on the news. We can think of all the people in Yemen, there's Syria, of course, there's these ongoing permanent wars now, unfortunately, and so many people there are suffering. So again, connecting with them, sending our love and compassion, healing energy. So people all over, and we can think all the animals from all different ecosystems and places are here too. Just the whole living sort of Gaia or ecosystem of the world. We're all sort of hooking up to here. And just as big as the animal world is the spirit world, all the different dimensions, astral and ethereal and so forth, all different spirit beings are here as well. One's in all these different, the 6 realms, and also in between Bardo states. Different celestial beings, gods and demigods are here. And then countless beings in lower states of rebirth, which constitute, unfortunately, the majority of sentient beings in hungry ghost realms and different hell states. But they're here, very happy to practice with us and sort of getting healing and the Dharma. So beautiful blue sky above us and no clouds and so forth. So it's easy to see, and just like a huge hologram in front of us, in front and above us. Pardon me. Let's visualize Tashita Pure Land, again in Pure Land, land of great bliss. And we used to do Ganla Gema, sort of hundreds of deities, enjoys all the different deities or gods and goddesses, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and so forth here in this Pure Land. This is the Pure Land of all the universal Buddhas who teach Buddhism. All of them that teach all the different doctrines of Buddhism. So Buddhist Shakyamuni is, of course, the 4th of this fortunate aeon that we're living in right now. It doesn't seem so fortunate, but technically it is. And out of 1,000 for this period of the universe, which is amazing. And so the 5th one is coming soon, Buddha Maitreya, and he will be teaching Buddhism, different form of Buddhism that's all based around love. So we can feel that we're sort of connecting with this land. This is also the Pure Land of the Buddha of Wisdom, Manjushri. So looking at this Pure Land now in the sky, it's beautiful. We can just think of it, this beautiful place of mountains and forests and lakes and so forth, just like, where we live in Canada here, BC or Northern Ontario or whatever. And we're looking at the central part of it. So kind of like the little monastic university town, all different temples. They always say they're in kind of old Manchu style with the beautiful roofs and so forth. And then we can see in this Pure Land where everyone's taking rebirth. And my first teacher said to get into Tashitta Pure Land, you need perfect moral discipline. So I was like, okay, sorry, Matthew, you're not getting into that one. You'll have to try for another Pure Land. But anyway, this one's really, really super pure. It's maybe the purest of the pure. Beautiful place. And in it, there's all sorts of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and gods and goddesses and monks and nuns, yogis, yoginis, everybody here meditating and writing Dharma books and debating and so forth. You can see all that. It's just in the little temples and buildings. And the central one is like a big cathedral, like Notre Dame Cathedral. The doors are open and we can see into our mind. And in it is a future Buddha, Buddha of loving kindness, Maitreya Buddha. And to show that he's going to step into the world soon, he's seated in a chair like a big throne. So he's not seated cross-legged kind of on the floor, a little cushion like we normally visualize, but as this one is sitting in a chair, and he's beautiful golden energy body. He has a crown on and silks. He's young and beautiful, and he's holding in the mudra of turning the wheel of Dharma. So index fingers touching the thumb, fingers flared at the heart, two beautiful white lotuses that blossom around the ears. Left one's got an initiation vase, gold initiation vase. Right one has a golden Dharma chakra. I think that's it. I know sometimes I switch those around, but anyway, you can visualize it that way today anyway. And he's beautiful. And then at his right or our left is the teacher of founder of the old Kadampa school, a very famous Indian Lama Atisha, Dipankara Vijana, who came and responsible for the main second wave of transmission of Buddhism into Tibet in the 11th century. And he is Indian monk in lotus position, wearing the 3 robes of a monk with the yellow penance hat, and he's got the turn the wheel of Dharma mudra as well. Then on the other side, we're going to visualize Tsongkhapa. This is on our right, or Maitreya's left, founder of the new Kadampa tradition, our tradition from the 1400s. And he's in the way we usually visualize him, Tibetan monk in lotus position, 3 robes of monk, yellow penance hat, turn the wheel of Dharma mudra at his heart, and holding 2 white lotuses, stems of white lotuses at his ears. The left one has the Prajnaparamita, Profession of Wisdom text, and the right one has a flaming sword. One of the great things Tsongkhapa did in his life is he restored this beautiful statue of Buddha Maitreya in Lhasa that was falling apart. And he said, as we're approaching Kali Yuga, Dark Ages, we have to do more and more practice as things fall apart to sort of create the karma for Maitreya to come even quicker as Buddhism dies out in the world. And the doctrine of the 4th universal Buddha, Buddha Shakyamuni, the one we're used to, our wonderful teacher and founder of Buddhism in India 2,500 years ago, as these teachings start to disappear from the world, we want a new, it's kind of like a new iPhone update. We want the new update coming real quick for Buddhism. So when we take rebirth here, again, we have more teachings, we can practice new ones. So we want Buddha Maitreya to come to descend from Tashitta Pure Land into this world. And he will again descend in India. He will take rebirth there and get enlightened in Bodh Gaya. That's where all the universal Buddhas get enlightened. That's kind of the center of the psychic universe for Buddhism. And these teachings he'll be teaching will all be on loving kindness. And at that time in the world, it'll be called the Age of Weapons. There'll be so much conflict and fighting in the world that these teachings will be dearly needed and bring a sort of new golden period of peace into the world. So we're connecting with that energy right now, sort of looking up at Tashitta Pure Land. So now at Maitreya's heart, excuse me, Little white clouds are forming at his heart out of a golden eternal knot symbol at his heart. And then again on these clouds, just like whipping cream, sort of fluffy and white, is Tsongkhapa as we visualize him. And then his two students, Chapa Gyatso and Kedrupje, that took over from him after he went into Parinirvana in 1419. So they are seated in lotus position, sort of in front of him, one on each side, and they have a little Dharma book in their left hand. Their right hand is in the mudra of teaching. So index finger touches the thumb at their heart. Let's do a little simple today. So what we'll visualize at Tsongkhapa's heart is we'll visualize the Buddha of wisdom, Manjushri. They say that, Tsongkhapa is an emanation of three Buddhas: Buddha of compassion, Buddha of wisdom, Buddha of power. So, but the main one they always say is Buddha of wisdom. So at his heart is Buddha of wisdom, Manjushri, and he's in lotus position, beautiful golden body. He doesn't have a shirt on. He's just got these kind of like little yoga pants, short yoga shorts, I guess you could say. And he's in lotus position, and he has a crown and beautiful jewelry, and he has his left hand mudra of teaching, and the white lotus is at his left shoulder with the Prajnaparamita text on it. And then he's holding a flaming sword and threatening mudra above his head. So on our left, or Tsongkhapa's right, Chapa Gyatso, or also known as Gyaltsabje, the sort of regent. This is Tsongkhapa's senior student that took over from him. He's sort of an old monk. He's very, very quiet and very beautiful. He has at his heart the Buddha of compassion, Chenrezig. They see he's an emanation of Chenrezig. So Chenrezig's beautiful. And Avalokiteshvara, he's snow white in lotus position. Same thing, he has little yoga pants on, and he has forearms, he is wearing a crown, he's holding a beautiful rainbow colored jewel at his heart representing Bodhicitta, and his other two hands hold a crystal mala, and his right and left has a lotus, beautiful lotus. Now, Kedrupje, sort of the younger guy, and they're both great lamas in the Sakya tradition before they became Tsongkhapa's teacher. Both of them great scholars as well, and yogis. And he's looking straight at you with kind of like buggy eyes, like a little sort of fierce, showing that he is the Buddha of power, Vajrapani. So at his heart's the Buddha of power, Vajrapani. And Vajrapani is dark blue, and he's burning, he's on fire. That's wisdom fire coming out of his body. He has a little tiger skin loincloth. I guess kind of like Tarzan or whatever, it's like wrapped around, showing that he's fearless, and he's standing sort of with his left leg bent and sort of right outstretched. Wait a minute, no, right, it's a right one bent, left outstretched. So he's holding with his right hand in between in the threatening mudra here. So he's holding Indorje to the sky like this. And he has at his heart in threatening mudra as well, a lasso, and the lasso represents subjugating or controlling negative influences or bad energy. So just taking refuge, I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I attain enlightenment. By the merit accumulating from practicing generosity and other perfections, may I attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I attain enlightenment. By the merit accumulating from practicing generosity and other perfections, may attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha until I attain enlightenment. By the merit accumulating from practicing generosity and other perfections, may I attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all beings have happiness in its causes. May all beings be free of suffering in its causes. May all beings constantly dwell in joy transcending sorrow. May all beings dwell in equal love for both those close and distant. So now we're doing the invocation here. So we're seeing Tashita Pure Land, again in Pure Land, but now we're sort of going to call Tsongkhapa's two students closer to receive their blessings. And also as we're making this like a bridge from our world into this beautiful Buddha universe as well. sort of bringing them together. From the heart of the protector, the hundreds of deities of the joyful land, to the peak of a cloud was like a cluster of fresh white curd. All knowing Tsongkhapa, king of the Dharma, please come to this place together with your two chief disciples. So when we recite this, again, just like you're rolling a little carpet or a yoga mat out, the clouds start to unfurl and start bringing the three lamas closer to us. So the clouds are still from Maitreya's heart, showing the connection. So it's almost like if there's like one of those little cranes you use to wash the windows, goes up like that. This time it's going down from Maitreya's heart. Just the clouds are going towards us with Tsongkhapa and his two students. So this point now, they're just right above us and in front of us. And sort of we can look up into the sky and have this beautiful vision of Tushita Pure Land and Buddha Maitreya, who's like a big sun in the sky. And then from him, all these beautiful clouds are coming with Tsongkhapa and his two students. And it's almost like we're bridging time here. It's like we're going back to feel these lamas. They're with us all the time, but just going back to the 15th century in Tibet when they were around, we can see them right here physically. In the space before me on a lion throne, lotus and moon, the venerable Guru mouthed to light. Supreme field of merit from my mind of faith, please remain for 100 aeons to spread the teachings. Your minds of wisdom realizes the full extent of objects of knowledge. Your eloquent speech is the ear ornament of the fortunate. Your beautiful bodies are ablaze with the glory of renown. I prostrate to you to see, to hear, and to remember so meaningful. Pleasing water offerings, various flowers, sweet-smelling incense, light-scented water, and so forth. A vast cloud of offerings, both set out and imagined, I offer to you, supreme field of merit. Whatever non-virtues of body, speech, and mind have accumulated since time without beginning, especially transgressions of my three vows, with great remorse, I declare each one from the depths of my heart. In this degenerate age, you strove for much learning and accomplishment. Abandon the 8 worldly concerns, you made your leisure and endowment meaningful. Protected from the very depths of my heart, I rejoice in the great wave of your deeds. From the billowy clouds of wisdom and compassion, the space of your enlightened minds, O venerable holy gurus, please send down a rain of vast and profound dharma, appropriate to the disciples of this world. May your Vajra body, created from the purity of clear light, free of the rising and setting of cyclic existence, but visible to the ordinary viewer only in its unsubtle physical form, stay on unchanged and without waiting until samsara ends. Through the virtues I've accumulated here, may the teachings and all living beings receive every benefit, especially may the essence of the teachings of Lama Tsongkhapa shine forever. So we'll just do a short mandala offering here to the merit field. Just feel that just we're offering just from our hearts, just a way to open our hearts, make us more generous and sort of, I guess, more heart-centered, I guess you could say. So to Tsongkhapa's two students, and then of course to Maitreya and Pure Land, we're offering this beautiful purified universe. So holding our hands, purified universe, we can visualize the Vedic one with Mount Meru, the 4 continents, 8 subcontinents, 6 beautiful 8 wisdom, knowledge goddesses, making offerings, all the possessions of a Chakravartin emperor, empress here. And then on top of the mountain, the sun and the moon, parasol, banner of victory, all these things sort of at the top. So it's almost like if you look at the center of the Milky Way and just all the different planets and stars going around it, that's kind of the sense that we're getting here with the mandala. This mandala is built on a base resplendent with flowers, saffron, water, and incense, adorned with Mount Meru, the 4 lands, the sun, and the full moon. By offering this pure mandala to you, assembly Buddhas here before me, may all living beings experience pure happiness and be reborn in pure lands. The objects of desire, aversion, and ignorance, friend, enemy, and stranger in my body and all possessions, these I offer without clinging for your enjoyment. Please bless me and all living beings to be released from the 3 poisonous minds. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious gurus. Om Idam Guru Radha Mandala Kam Nirtiyami. So send that up and it dissolves into Tsongkhapa's heart. Now, having made that offering, we're going to visualize sort of healing energy coming down from the 3 gurus. So we can feel that golden energy is coming down from their hearts and blessing all beings around. So it's just like sunlight or just like sunbeams. You know, when you get a sunbeam coming through the window on the couch or something, it's that kind of beautiful thing, sort of warm and light. This is coming down, blessing all the beings around us, making them all glow with golden light. But for us in particular, we can just feel 3 needles of light made out of energy, just that lighter energy, come down, and they sort of join together at our crown from the hearts of the 3 gurus. And lights and golden nectar come down together through the sort of needles into our body, filling our body up. So just like kind of like an IV bag of good energy sort of going into, you know, they attach it to your arm or whatever, it's flowing into your body. Same kind of thing, filling us up. When I first learned about these teachings, you can get that Billy Bee honey where it's like a plastic bear but full of honey, and you can squeeze it for the honey to come out. Just kind of like filling it up with honey that way, just like you end up just being kind of like an outline of energy filled up with all this golden energy and light. And I also feel that in the light and nectar are little sparkly symbols. So these representing the different wisdoms. I think it's 8 wisdoms, if I'm not mistaken, 7 or 8 wisdoms. A little tired today, can't remember straight up, but just all the different kinds of wisdoms, like wisdom, what they call quick wisdom, profound wisdom, clear wisdom, wisdom for teaching, wisdom for debating, wisdom for composing Dharma texts, all these kinds of wisdoms going directly into your mind here. And this is symbolized by like little tiny sparkles of Buddha wisdom Manjushri and Maitreya, the mantra Amurapasanadi of wisdom floating around there, the D syllable, DHI floating around inside your body, and little flaming swords, little Dharma texts, spinning wheels of swords to cut through negative energy. And while we're doing this sort of flowing down, just kind of like a waterfall into us, we'll recite the mantra here. So, you are Avalokiteshvara, great treasure of unimaginable compassion, Manjushri, master of flawless wisdom, and Vajrapani, lord of the secret, destroyer of hordes of Mars without exception. Tsongkhapa, crown jewel, the sage of the land of snows. Losangrapa, I make request at your lotus feet. So just the 3 times in Tibetan. Mig me se wei ter chen chen rei zi. Dream can pei wang po cham pao yang. Du pung ma lu chom se sang wei dan. Gan chen ke pe sung kien song kapa. Lo sang tra pe sha bla so wan de. Mig me se wei che chen chen me zi. Dri be ken pe wang po cham pao yang. Du pung ma lu chom se sang wei dan. Gan chen ke pe sung kien song kapa. Lo sang dra pe sha bla so wa de. Mig me se wei ter chen chen rei zi. Dri me ken pe wang po cham pao yang. Du pung ma lu chom se sang wei dan. Gan chen ke pe sung kien song kapa. Lo sang tra pe sha bla so wa de. So all this golden nectar and energy is in your body. Now for the dissolution meditation, just visualize from now your body's kind of like hollow, just from all the nectar and golden energy. And we can visualize the central channel, our main spiritual channel, just like a big straw from our crown, right in front of our spine to our heart. And just at the bottom of it here, we can visualize about the size of a loonie, or sort of a big quarter, a white moon disk on top of an 8-spoked white lotus. So you got the little lotus there and the little moon disk on top. And that's where Tsongkhapa is going to come and dissolve. He's going to sort of settle into that. So let's visualize that the whole merit field starts to dissolve. We can just feel that Tushita Pure Land starts to melt into golden light and sort of go inward into Buddha Maitreya. Maitreya now melts into golden light like a beautiful sun, and then starts coming towards us, sort of gathering up all the white clouds. And then he dissolves into Tsongkhapa. Now, Chapel Gyatso and Kejupche, they dissolve into light and melt into Tsongkhapa. So it's just Tsongkhapa in the sky right now. And he starts to get really, really small. And he still has Manjushri at his heart. And then he comes down to the crown of our head. And it's about 6 inches above it. So this here, glorious, precious root guru, please come to the lotus and moon seat at my crown, and in great kindness, please remain with me. Bestow upon me the blessings of your body, speech, and mind. Glorious and precious root guru, please descend the lotus and moon seat at my heart, and in great kindness, please remain with us. Or with me, please grant me common and supreme realizations. Glorious, precious root guru, please remain in the lotus and moon seat at my heart, and in great kindness, please remain with me. Please remain until I achieve the essence of enlightenment. So upon saying that, he's about the size, sort of shrinks to, he's about the size of a sunflower seed, sort of golden sunflower seed, almost like a little piece of gold. And he's made out of pure light. He can dissolve into your crown. And then sort of inside the central channel, descending till he gets to your heart. Once he gets to your heart, sort of the central channel disappears here. So now it's just him on the lotus and moon cushion. And then they start to close, just like a flower in the evening, like a tulip closes up. Lotus closes up for the evening. So it's almost just like a lotus bud at your heart. And then around it at top, clockwise, is Umarapatsanadi, mantra of Buddha of Wisdom, Manjushri, made out of golden light, radiant light. And then below it is Tsongkhapa's mantra, Gurvasha Samanakirti Siddhi Hum, and that's running counterclockwise, golden light. So it's just like those are little strings that are tying the lotus up, making, sort of closing it up and sealing it. So once we visualize that, just imagine that that sort of dissolves inside Tsongkhapa, is just like some butter melting, dissolves into us, right into our heart, right into our mind. So it's the blessings of 3 Buddhas, Buddha of compassion, Buddha of wisdom, Buddha of power, all that energy going into us. And we feel great, great spaciousness and bliss and joy. Just sit with that for a moment here. Okay, slowly coming out of meditation. Okay, we got about 15 minutes left here for the class, so I'm just going to give a few more teachings on emptiness today, so on ultimate truth. So I just wanted to introduce, we'll talk about it a little bit more next week as well. Okay, yeah. It's always hard for me just to know how to sort of approach this material because it is sort of difficult. I want to make sure, ironically, it's one of the 18 root downfalls of your Bodhisattva vows, which is to explain emptiness to someone who isn't ready to sort of screw up in your way of teaching emptiness, because you can give people a wrong idea and then it completely screws up their personal life and their spiritual life. So you have to be really, really careful when you present this stuff just to make sure that you got it right. And it's not easy. So last time we were talking, just have a very sort of cursory introduction to emptiness and the idea of the two truths. The idea of ultimate truth and what they call conventional reality or deceptive truth. And the difference being is that they're basically the two sides of a coin. It's the same thing, but just how you approach it. So when we engage with the reality of the thing, you can either do sort of an ultimate analysis, sort of meditate on its emptiness or see that side of it. In that case, we call it ultimate truth because the way it appears to you at that moment is exactly the way it is. So emptiness appears to your mind, it's emptiness, the emptiness of that object. And emptiness is just like empty space. It's the lack of inherent existence. It's the lack of true nature of that thing. So its appearance and its nature, or the way it really is, go together. Whereas deceptive reality or just conventional, just like any given object, like a piece of jade that I have here on my altar, this appears to me as something independent of my mind. It appears to me as being substantially unchanging, existent, having its own nature. But deep down, we know it doesn't, because its ultimate nature is empty. So its ultimate nature is not that. But it appears that way. And so we say that it is quote unquote deceptive in the sense that the way it appears and the way it really is are two different things. It's not the way it appears. It appears independent of me. It appears independent of relationships, but really, really it isn't. So that's what I was talking a little bit about last week. And one thing we'll get more into when we talk about conventions, conventional truth, how things are in the world, these objects, they exist conventionally. In other words, by conventions. In other words, one way of looking at the word convention, like what is a convention? What does it mean for something to be conventional? Well, that's basically, we study this when you study philosophy. The whole 20th century is basically looking at philosophy of language, how language works. And when you study language or sort of social reality, you're studying conventions. In other words, rules. In other words, we all decide to play by the rules of a certain game, or we all decide that something means something or something doesn't mean something. We all decide that this, like let's say, is a piece of BC jade. That's what it means by a convention. It's basically a rule. And the fact that we all sort of subscribe to this rule means that things appear a certain way. Right? They could be any way, but we've decided they appear that way. So you can see that even in following rules, we all follow, and there's a little bit of difference. Our perceptions are always different depending on our karma, but in a lot of ways, we all sort of get together on a social level to say something's a certain way, or rules. Like you basically, this is a big thing in philosophy. What does it mean to follow a rule? What are the rules for following rules? You can see that in a lot of ways, those are empty. There's no really one way to follow a rule. Rules come and go, rules change. They don't have a nature. When we start looking at how to apply rules, you get to more rules on how to apply rules. Like Freud always said this, he said there's social rules And then this is what's funny, there's rules on how you apply rules. So you really see this when you go to another country and you don't know the social rules. Like, let's say when I go to Japan or whatever, they have a different set of social rules than you're used to. So the reality you end up living in, the conventional reality, is different. So it's not just about applying rules, it's the rules and how to apply them. So that's what's interesting. In other words, like as a kid, because I have Asperger's, right? That's a long story, but with Asperger people or people that are on the spectrum of autism, a lot of times what you can't perceive are the rules and how to apply the rules. So you do things literally the case. So you look funny, people make fun of you. So as a kid, I was told that it was illegal not to jaywalk, right? But we all know the social, that's a rule that you're not allowed to do it, but then it's okay, we all do it. Now, you see how rules work. But as a little kid, I didn't know that. So I wouldn't jaywalk. I was terrified of jaywalking. My friends, oh my God, you're going to get arrested. And I'd sit there and I'd have to wait till the traffic light would change and stuff. So anyway, it's just funny. I'm just showing you a little bit on what rules are when we talked about conventional reality. Okay. So going on to the, sort of the next point here, I don't want to dwell on that too much. So you can see, we'll get into that on why that's important, on why we call conventional reality conventional in terms of rules, okay? So in this part of the class, in later sort of classes we'll talk about different views on emptiness and different schools on emptiness. And it's good to know those. But for this one right now, we're going to talk about the main school of emptiness that we need to know about. What we talked earlier about, the middle way school, the middle way consequentialist or Prasangika school. This is the ultimate or sort of like the ultimate version of emptiness that we have to know. When you study Buddhism, even in LamRim, or when Rinpoche talks about Buddhism, most of the time now when Lamas talk about it, is the only view of emptiness they present is this one. They don't present any of the lower schools. They don't present the Sautrantika school. They don't even present the Yogacara way of perceiving emptiness, for instance, because in a lot of ways, if you have to learn one school on emptiness, it might as well be this way. Emptiness is hard. We don't want to confuse you with too many views on emptiness, this and that. And this is the one that works with Tantra. We're getting Tantra and comparaments. So in other words, to save time and to put people just sort of right where they have to be, Lamas sort of teach this school. So as a little introduction to emptiness, this is the school we're going to talk about right now. So when you present the Prasangika school, what we always talk about is talk about bases and labels. This is the famous one. I don't have, do I have a pen? I've got a crystal like a pen, but this is the one Geshe Michael Roach famously gives as his pen example, right? Is that can we talk about emptiness? Well, he says, like, you have, let's say this is a pen, kind of looks like a pen. Is this a pen? Is this a truly existing pen? If it is a truly existing pen, it should be a pen to absolutely everybody, and that's the only thing you could do with it. But he said when you show it to a dog, it goes to bite it like a toy. So it's not perceiving it as a pen. It's got a different reality that it's in. But also I can do different things with a pen. It's not always just that I need to use it to write with. I can pick my ear with it or scratch my back with it or something. So how it appears to me, how I label it is the way it appears, is its nature. So there's two things about this, is that you can basically label it any way you want. I mean, like, in other words, depending on how I want to use it. So this pen, like what you always say is that there's a base. In other words, there's certain qualities to the pen. It will unfold itself in a series of perspectives and have qualities. So it's long, it's a little bit like a cylinder. In this case, it has this crystal. It's not a pen, but anyway, it has a color to it. And then based on these qualities, you can apply a label to it. You can say pen, or in this case, let's just say crystal, long crystal, right? That's sort of, and once I have the label, I know what it is. And in particular, I know what kind of thing I can do with it, what kind of, how it functions in my world, right? In this case, I use it for acupuncture or anything else. So once I have the label, basically the conventional label, that allows me to do something with it in my life, in the world, and other people can use it in the same way. So you see that in a lot of ways in Buddhism, just like in philosophy, meaning is use. What things mean to you, how they appear to you, is what you're going to do with them. But you see that two things have to come together here. You have to get, in other words, there's a base, and then there's a label. So you can see that with everything, out of a series of qualities, like unfolding my watch, it's black, there's leather straps, there's metal face, there's little hands. These qualities I recognize it out of all these different data, you could say. The base, I have the label on it, then I get the watch. You can't have a label without the base. You can't have a base without the label. So famous philosopher Husserl used to say, Edmund Husserl, the founder of modern phenomenology in Germany at the first part of the 20th century, he said, you get an object when intuition and intention come together. What he meant by that is that you get qualities first, like a base, and then you intend a label, or that, and they come together to create something. So he gives the example that you're walking home at nighttime into your house. This might not be his example, it might be my professor gives the example when we were studying logical investigations, but anyway, I'm using it. So as you're going into the house, you see something black move, like a bunch of things, and you know that you always leave your cat outside the house before you come into home from work. So you look at that and it's like, oh, that's my cat. So I'm intending the image of my cat. Does it meet with the data there? So when I look, it's like, oh, actually it's not. It's the way the leaves were blowing on the ground in the shadows. It looked like my cat. So there's no object there. My cat's not there. You see, because the base wasn't there for the label to go on. When the label and the base go together, you have the object, right? Now we can go the other way. It's like, what happens when there's no label? When you're just getting base at you, but there's no label to recognize something as. Then you don't have an object on that side either. So an example would be that if, let's say, you're super overtired and sick, and you're feverish, and you're waking up and you don't even know you're in your bedroom. You don't even know what things look like. Sometimes you have that, like I have that with jet lag. Like I always say, anyway, imagine being this jet lag where you wake up but you don't know where you are. Like many times when I first started flying overseas, like I would wake up, I didn't know I had a body, I didn't know where I was. I'd fall out of bed and I'd be there and nothing made sense. I didn't know where I was. I'd have to take a moment, sit in my bed, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, I think this is Japan. And I'd open the curtains and, oh, it's Osaka. Then all of a sudden I'm in Osaka, like I'm in a reality. But what was interesting is the first little bit, it's like the labels weren't even coming, you know what I mean, a little bit. So, okay, so why is this important? This is like, this is always the question. It's like, okay, well, thank you very much for all this interesting stuff, Matthew, but who cares, right? What is this important? Why is this important to what we're trying to do with Buddhism here? Well, there's a bunch of different things. The most important thing to get at, and we'll come to that time and time again, is that what you're perceiving isn't objects, but labels in your mind, right? So literally, when you start studying the Prasangika school and see that things are just bases and labels, and what's interesting is that when I take the base itself, it becomes a label. So if this kind of data of the black strap to make up my watch, if I take any of the individual things themselves that make up the base for the label, they're not the same thing, right? They're basically a dependent origination with a concept on top of it. That's how labels and bases work. But this itself becomes a label. This itself becomes black leather strap, black on one side, tan on the other. And that's based on data or a base. So literally your reality is like an onion. It's like a million different Post-it notes all stacked on top of each other. So the good thing about that is that if things literally are just conventions or rules, how we're labeling things to use them, things don't have to be that way. They don't have to be that way. Technically, they could be any way you want them to be, right? That's the big take-home lesson, especially for Tantra. How is it that I can become a Buddha in a Buddha universe or in a mandala and not basically think I'm just schizophrenic or acting it, just like pretending I'm Napoleon or the President of the United States. Like, if the very fact that things are just a label and base, even me, myself, me as Matthew Richards here in this little mandala of diluted reality I call my life, that itself is just a function of rules and labeling and how they're being used socially, how they're being used in my own life. They don't have any foundation, right? So if you label things a different way, they'll become a different thing. All mantras are, for instance, are the label of a deity. A mantra is just the deity's name. The base of the mantra, for instance, is the deity's body. The label is the mantra. You see that you can create a reality right from scratch with Tantra, and that's how Tantra works. So His Holiness the Dalai Lama said that he met, it's kind of, my dear friend David Gonzalez, a teacher, said that years ago. I can't remember. His Holiness might have told, his teacher this or something, but he said, oh, I've met many Western students that are just crazy because they think they're a deity. In other words, they haven't gotten rid of their deluded self, but they've just labeled the deity on top of themselves. So, hi, I'm Matthew Richards, but I'm Green Tara too. Nice to meet you, right? So they're basically just crazy. You have to get rid of this reality first before you substitute it with the other reality, the pure reality, right? The fact that it has no foundation means it's something you can do. But why we meditate on emptiness or blankness, or the fact that things are inherent, there's no inherent reality there at all on an ultimate level, that's what allows us to start to sweep away this reality, to see that it has no foundation, that it's just a matter of rules or interconnected labels with nothing underneath them. So that's one part of the story. The other part of the story is, why are rules or why are conventions the way they are? Why are labels the way they are, right? Here's the other side of it. And this is actually probably the more important side of it, really, is that, things appear to you a certain way. They could be any way, they can be any other way that they are. So how do I say this? Heidegger had a great way. Things are not what they might be. That's sort of a funny way of saying, but in other words, things can be anything, right? Like when I look at something, it doesn't have to be that way. There's in the famous book from philosopher Michel Foucault called Words and Things in 1965, I think he wrote that. It's a really, really good book. He starts it, it's a whole an examination of Western theoretical culture from the Renaissance to the 20th century. It's it's a boring book, but it's an amazing book. But he starts it with I always like saying this, from the Tang Dynasty, a book from the emperor or something on how to label things in the kingdom. And it's basically a set of rules on how to see reality, let's say in the 5th century in China, in all the different ways that something stands as an object. In other words, something seen as far away, something that's bigger than a cat. Another one is like something that's been knocked over off a table. So what's funny is you see all these different ways to label reality, and they're completely ridiculously different than ours. But you start to see that in their reality, the way they label things was completely different than ours. But it functioned, it worked. It's not like theirs is right and ours is wrong, or vice versa. But you see that depending on what kind of rules you use to instantiate a social world, and that's the way it is, it could be completely different. And what Foucault is showing in that book is that things do change, is that Western society from the Renaissance to now, its social rules have changed so much in what constitutes reality. So you always take things the way they are as being always changeless, they've always been this way. But you see historically, even the foundations of our reality culturally have been changing. So again, you see that there's no basis. However, things do appear to you a certain way, right? In other words, this does appear to me as a watch. This will appear to a dog as a chew toy. Why does this appear to me as a watch? I can't see it as anything but a watch in this moment. right? Now I can label a certain thing. I can call it a hat if I want to be a weird person or whatever, or wear it as a necklace and what, but it doesn't appear to me that way right at the moment. Right at the moment, this appears to me as something. So again, in philosophy, that asness is the label. Something appears as something, right? So the asness in the present moment, you don't have control of how that label appears to you. It's forced on you a certain way, right? So what's interesting, Heidegger said that, is that you never, he says a great thing. He said that things are just, the world's disclosed or presented to you or thrown to you without your choice. So what he says is that you never hear just data. You never hear the base, so to speak. The label's always already presented to you, right? So he says you don't hear tone data and then interpret it. You hear a motorcycle, you hear the snowplow, you hear the kettle going off. When you hear language, you don't hear blah, 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 even if it's a language you don't understand, you hear a language, right? When I see, let's say my bell, I know already that this is a bell and not just a metal object. I know what it's for, right? So this is the other side of it. Labels can be, in bases can be anything because they're empty. However, they appear to you in a certain way without your choice in that moment. Does anyone know why? I can see everybody here. This is a rhetorical question, of course. But you can think about what's presenting things to you this way. It starts with a K, karma. That's what karma is. If you want to know what karma is on the deepest level, to exist in Buddhism is basically to be a mind and an object. Everything is mind. Mind is defined as what they call object possessor, which means that a mind always has an object. There's no object without a mind. There is no mind without an object. That's the building blocks of reality in Buddhism. To be is to perceive, you could say. It's like a Leibnizian system, a monadic system. There is always minds. Those minds always have objects. But what is the object? The object is the label you're looking at, the asness of something, right? When at each moment, 65 moments in one finger snap, there's 65 objects. Each object's being presented to you as a label on a base. The label is the asness. What makes the asness is your karma. So karma, interesting, is basically a seed that ripens into a mind and an object. The mind's perceiving the object, it's seeing the object as something. The object's appearing as something. So karma, whatever you're doing, whatever you're thinking, whatever you're saying, whatever you're doing physically, you're planting seeds or sort of projecting reality out that ends up coming back to you. How it's a cause that ripens as the effect. The effect is a perception. The perception is something as something. So this is the big key with emptiness to understand. Emptiness, when we see things have no self, it shows that reality is completely plastic. It's like a blank slate. It's a blank canvas that you can paint on. But what's being painted on the blank canvas already is your karma from past lives. Now, which is good, is you can paint it any way you want, but the point is, in the present moment, the stuff coming at you from your past is disclosing reality a certain way or revealing reality a certain way, right? You don't have a choice over that. That the movie you're in right now, you made in the past. You've directed it, you've uploaded it, the TikTok video's running and you're in it, right? But if you want to make the new TikTok video, that's what you're putting out right now. So for Tantra, labeling yourself as a deity in a pure land, so you appear as Green Tara in a beautiful world that's as beautiful as you can imagine, that's something you do right now. And the fact that things are empty means in the future that will appear that way and you will be enlightened, right? That's what enlightenment really is. This is why emptiness is the most important thing in Buddhism. This is the main engine of enlightenment, so to speak, is understanding emptiness and karma. Karma is conventional reality. It is conventions. It is the labels we use, the rules we have, the projections we do in our personal life that create reality, that you see as your reflection, you disclose in your reflection, right? So anything's possible, and you just have to do the right projections. So, and eventually when we're done all these courses, we'll go over our vows, because your vows and all the little correct habits you have, that's the asness that you're writing. That's the script that you want to load in there, right? Your tantric technology and your vows, that is what you want to project out. That's what ends up creating the Buddha universe that you want to live in. Anyway, I hope I've gone over about 10 minutes. I'm sorry. We'll talk a little bit more. We'll fill a little bit more out next week about this, but I hope that was clear. I know it's kind of a little intense and stuff. Is that kind of clear? So somewhat. Anyway, okay, good. Well, anyway, we'll talk about it more next week and stuff. So we'll just anyway. I love this stuff. I get a little carried away talking about it. So thank you so much. So anyway, let's just take a moment. I will say that when we're done this, another couple classes, I'd like to do one class that's basically like a Q&A where we can have a discussion. We'll have a meditation, and then we can just go over the material, and you can ask questions, and we can talk about that way if something comes up. And just before we close this particular module, I'd like to, so we can have a little bit more of a discussion. I'll let you guys know when that is. So let's take a moment just to dedicate. So by just thinking by the blessings of all of our gurus and all holy beings, all the Buddhas. Again, the truth of karma, causes and effects, of projecting our labels out a certain way, and the power of a pure intention, why we're doing this. We're doing this with bodhicitta. May all sentient beings reach enlightenment. Okay, thanks everybody. Turn this off here.
That was brilliant, Matthew.